Steve Kunin, Carolina Sports Store here, the one and only, my tocayo again, Steven Espinoza. Man, I'm kind of bummed, brother. I feel like, I don't know, who knows, right? Who knows where we all land and stuff, but I hope that's not the last time I say that to you in an interview, man.
Well, I hope not either. It's an emotional event for a lot of people. A lot of people who've given decades, literally decades of their careers to supporting this sport. It's a cliche, but it's more than a job to a lot of people. And a lot of the people who've been working at Showtime Boxing 20, 30 years, a lot of them from the start. So there's a lot of emotions going on. But things change. Media changes, company changes. Rights move across networks. So, I think being as positive I can, I think it's an opportunity for the sport to sort of maybe refresh, to rethink some things, to maybe put it together in a way that's even stronger than it has been in the past. So I would say that's the silver lining, is you get an opportunity for the reset. I think Amazon is a tremendous opportunity. There's obviously a huge audience and a lot of marketing available there. And it's an opportunity to sort of do things a little bit differently, which is never a bad thing.
Why, after such a stellar year, right? I mean, maybe one of the best years I feel like in Showtime. Like you said it, three $19 million gates in a year. Why? Right. Why did it happen?
Now? Right.
Yeah,
and that just sort of demonstrates or illustrates the fact that it really wasn't tied to performance. I know that's a weird thing to say, but the reality is it wasn't about this year or the ratings or the pay-per-view results. If it was any of those things, then we'd be a slam dunk to be continuing for a long, long time, because we've clearly shown that we're the leader of the market and doing bigger events and some highly anticipated, very memorable events. But the reality is, Paramount's going through a lot of changes. There's a merger. There's a lot of pressures in the media industry on all of them. I mean, every company across has done programming changes and personnel changes. And, this is, unfortunately, we're a casualty of that. When there's times of distress, when there's times of, mergers, people come in, people come in with a new strategy. And at the end of the day, it's sometimes as simple as that. It's not that what they were doing wasn't working. It's that somebody comes in and it's got different ideas for different strategies. So Showtime programming has become a lot more narrow. It wasn't a boxing decision. There's no boxing on Showtime anymore. There won't be any MMA. There's no sports. There's no documentaries. Whether sports or non-sports. There's not going to be much, if any, comedy or music. I mean, it's really a focus on scripted programming, and that's a strategic decision. So you don't have to be happy about it, don't have to agree with it, but it is what it is.
So guys like Oscar De La Hoya, he told me when I asked him, the rumor was DAZN. I heard of the rumor about DAZN and Amazon. He said, that they should be worried that maybe Al Heyman is like bankrupt, like Showtime, Fox, kind of HBO. He kind of said so, like comments like that.
I mean, I think it's funny. I mean, Golden Boy has had several changes of networks. Top Rank's changed networks. DAZN itself has changed a lot of strategy and promoters. So, look, there's only one group that people, seem to say over and over again is bankrupt. There's certainly been budget cuts at many of the other networks. Many of the networks that promote boxing, there have been budget cuts on other promoter network deals. They don't really get talked about much. We know who they are. The people who know that budgets have been cut. You can see it in the programming. So look, everyone's going through some changes. So I think, I've heard people asking the similar question about Golden Boy, about what about their future. So look, I hope they do well. I hope all the promoters do well. I hope BBC does well going forward. I don't think it's necessary to wish negativity on anyone. So I just think it's an unfair question. Obviously, with the biggest talent base and the most successful events and the biggest events, the company's doing just fine.
Right. Going forward into Amazon, with PBC going to Amazon, I mean, are you? I know you have a close relationship with Al and kind of the PBC brass. Are you going to kind of make the transition as well, or?
It's been discussed. Honestly, I've been so focused and so tied up with getting things done this year. Not just these events, but closing up financials, packing up the office, doing all the things for personnel that requires after all this. I haven't given that much thought to where I'll be personally. Certainly there's a big part of me that wants to stay in the sport. I've had a great time for the last 12 years. It's been a fantastic thing. If you would have told me 12 years ago that we would have achieved what we've achieved, literally the biggest events of all time, and building some of the stars that are going to be the foundation of the sport for years to come, I'm not sure I would have believed it. So I'm proud of what we've done, and there's a lot of me that says, look, let's keep going, let's keep rolling with it. But I'm looking around, evaluating the options, and we'll see.
And just to kind of wrap up the Showtime, it's funny, coming in this weekend, I was like, I'm going to ask people, what's their favorite Showtime fight? And I'm like, maybe I should ask what their second favorite Showtime fight is, because I feel like we all know number one.
Right. Yeah. It's sort of when you say more memorable. I mean, obviously, it's hard to compare anything to Mayweather Pacquiao, Mayweather McGregor, and every interview I feel like I'm giving a different one. There's so many memorable parts that weren't part of fights. The Mayweather Canelo press tour, doing 10 cities in 9 days or whatever it was. That just doesn't happen. I mean, I'm not even going to mention the Mayweather McGregor press tour. That speaks for itself. But I mean, there's so many. Seeing Tank grow up right in front of our eyes, seeing David Benavidez grow in front of our eyes. I mean, I was checking the list. I think we've done 14 fights with the Charlos, 13 with Leo Santa Cruz. Have done a ton with Danny Garcia, with Errol Spence, with David Benavidez. But I think the thing that is among the most fulfilling is seeing those young guys start with you and then grow into the top tier. And then there's the great atmospheres. Joshua Klitschko, 90,000 people in the stadium. Even Spence versus Brook, over there. And I love outdoor fights, so the stadium fights are among the most memorable. I really, it's a cliche, but it's like children. It's like you can't pick. Like some of the most memorable events have been, ones at StubHub or Dignity Health Park. So it's sort of like, no, there's too many. If I sat down and made a list, it'd be a really long one.
Right. It'd be a good book. Boxing memoirs type of thing. Yeah, for sure. Man, Steven, that's it for me, brother. Any final words to the fans, and kind of anything, last words you want to say?
Well, look, I'd say, we as a group, on behalf of the network and everybody working, appreciate all the people who are truly supportive. There've been so many. I think in the sport, unfortunately, sometimes the negative voices get more or louder than the positive, but there's so many people who have been so supportive of what we're doing, whether it's watching or buying or supporting the sport. And I would like to think, and I think all of us would like to take pride in the fact that we represented the sport well, and we hope that that's what people take away from this period of time. We tried to do the best fights we could and present them as objectively and with high quality as possible. So, the sport will adjust. The fighters are going to adjust. There's too much talent in PBC for it to just disappear. And I would say stay tuned. I think there are going to be exciting things. I think this is an opportunity for the sport to take a break and maybe improve and get to an even better place going forward.
Man, I appreciate your time as always, and just from a boxing fan's perspective, man, I appreciate the time and effort. We're in crazy places right now. It's like 40 degrees outside. You know what I mean, and so appreciate all the work you put into the sport and the great fights you gave us.
Thank you.
So thank you.
All right, thanks.